Mr. E. He's going to introduce our speaker.
Thanks so much, Chip. Good morning. So Joe Evermore is an entrepreneur, adventurer, and business leader. But if you read his bio, you'd realize he's good at making and naming children. As an entrepreneur, Joe began and grew a pro-life organization called Save the Storks. And Save the Storks runs over 100 mobile medical clinics across 33 states that give away free ultrasounds. Why ultrasounds? Because 80% of abortion-interested women will change their mind about their baby and they'll save it after they've seen an ultrasound. So this impact has been thousands of lives. Thank you, Joe. Joe also started another business called Superhero Sidekick, which helps both not-for-profits and for-profit businesses raise money. But the reason why I was attracted to Joe and his story and asked Chip if I could introduce him is because when I became a Christian about 7.5 years ago, so many Christians talked about death, what happens after you die. You know, if you don't want to go to hell, you got to get saved. If you don't want to go to hell, stop sinning. But when I got to know the Lord, I realized he didn't want to wait to see me in heaven. He wanted to walk with me and show me how to live. And it's one of the reasons why I like NCS so much, because collectively together, we show each other how to live. And this morning, that's what Joe Evermore is going to show us, how to live. Joe Evermore.
Thank you very much. After hearing all that, I can't wait to hear myself speak. However, I'm going to make another introduction. One of my favorite people, somebody that I love being around, is my son. He is a beloved son, and he's talented in a lot of ways. He's an unbelievable, I don't know what you call it, a yo-yoer, but he can yo-yo tricks like nobody's business. And you're going to hear more about him in my speech. But I just wanted to, you guys, you just give him a really awesome standing ovation here. Sam, come on up here. There we go. Here we go. He's got a speech for you. Here we go. There you go.
It was in the middle of the night in October, pitch black. I remember looking down and watching the light from my headlamp be absorbed into darkness. Me and my dad were climbing the tallest sheer wall in North America, El Capitan, and our plans were not going as expected. This was an adventure. Have you ever heard the phrase, adventure is my middle name? Well, my name's Sam, and adventure actually is my middle name. But what is an adventure? I believe an adventure is defined by 3 things. 1, unexpected, 2, hard, and 3, scary. I've got a unique perspective on adventure because my dad is a little bit nuts. He took me on my first really big rock climb when I was just 6 years old. Together, we spent the night on Lost Arrow Spire in Yosemite Valley. We cuddled on a portal ledge 2,700 feet up. I admit, I was a little scared up there. It was an amazing experience. But when we were done, my dad said that wasn't an adventure because everything went perfectly according to plan. You don't plan for an adventure, rather an adventure usually starts once something goes wrong. For instance, just going hiking isn't an adventure unless you get lost and get bitten in the face by a rattlesnake. Going on a cruise ship might be fun, but it's not an adventure unless the boat starts to sink in shark-infested waters. El Capitan is so big that it took us 5 days, and once we were done, everybody asked the same question. What was the hardest part? Well, let me tell you. On the second day, a party in front of us got a haul bag stuck on a flake, and that set us back many hours. As the sun began to set over Yosemite Valley, my dad helped me put on my down coat and then connected a headlamp to my helmet. As he did this, he said, "Sam, tonight is going to be cold, hard, and scary. There is no way out but up, and you are going to need to be very brave." This is when the adventure begins. We climb into the night. It felt like we were lost in the darkness on an endless ocean of rock. The ground was too far away to see, and my hands were so cold as I could hardly feel them as I was clipping in. Together, we had one mission, to climb to camp. I trusted my dad, but I wondered if we would ever get there. We made it to camp at 1 a.m. the next morning. I didn't realize how far I could push my body. By far, climbing that night was the hardest, scariest, and raddest thing I've ever done. And it was then that I learned that sometimes the best part is also the hardest part. And now I can't wait for my next adventure. Thank you.
Good job, buddy. So I thought I'd start us out with Sam. He is such an awesome kid, and let me tell you, it's one thing to take your kid up El Capitan. It's a whole nother thing to get him to come up and speak in front of people. And that was a whole nother level of challenge in his life. And a couple of shots here from El Capitan, from my perspective, is when we were up there, Anne each day would come to the meadow, and she had a little radio that she would talk to Sam on. And on the last day, we hung this huge flag. I don't know if you can see it, that says, "Almost there, love you, Mom." And she could see it from the meadow, which is pretty cool. And Sam was so excited to hang that over the edge and surprise her. But yeah, climbing El Capitan is no joke. It's a big deal. It's you've got to carry everything that you need for that week with you, including your water. Now you're thinking, man, how am I going to carry all this water for showers, right? There's no showers up there, but there was still almost 300 pounds of just water. They have to haul up in these huge haul bags. You have to create complex pulley systems and then use your weight to leverage it up. So it's a fairly big deal getting a little guy up this wall over those days. So here's a picture of my family. We've got, there's my wife, Anne, at the bottom there. Then we got Sam Adventure on the right, Sylvan Lightyear on the left, and then the top guy I'm holding there is Joey Danger. Joey Danger is actually living up to his name. Last week we have a little pond at our house where we have a little fire pit. And I said to Joey, Joey, somebody needs to go get some matches or a lighter. He's like, I'll get it. And he took off for the house. And the house is maybe 400 or 500 feet from this little pond. And he couldn't find matches or a lighter in the house. So he's a creative little guy, comes up with some good ideas to get it. He finds an Amazon box and turns on the stove and lights the Amazon box with the stove. And by the time we got down to the pond, he has got a full-blown flaming torch that he's running down into this pond with. And I said, wow, you're a genius little guy. That was really smart of you, real creative and great wit with that one. And so he is definitely living up to his name. God, when you're naming your kids, it's best if God helps give you the names, and he did, and these boys are living up to it. This is actually a picture in the Cirque of the Towers, which is a very special place, a sacred place. And one of the reasons it's a sacred place is because when our boys turn 5, we take them up this mountain called Pingora, which you're not seeing the front of this mountain. It's a big deal. It's a massive, almost impossible mountain. When I told people that I was going to do it with Sam when he was first turned 5, everyone said, Joe, that's impossible. No one can do that. It takes 2 days just to hike to the bottom of this mountain, which is no joke as well. And little Joey Danger did that last summer. And so all 3 of my boys have summited Pingora when they turn 5. And so that's how we kind of start them out. And that's really what I want to talk to you guys about today. It's masculine formation. It's not something that we learn about very much. It's not something that I've ever heard anyone really talk about at church. It's certainly not, there's not many books written on it. There's no movies on it. But it is something that is ancient and true. We as fathers, it's our job to architect a set of environments that actually develop a man or a boy into becoming a man. And that is our calling when we have boys. It's masculinity doesn't just come about by accident. It comes about through bestowal, through men speaking into that boy and creating a series of challenges where they have to actually earn that rite of passage. And this goes back in many cultures. Actually, in Africa, there are several tribes in Africa, that before you can marry, before you can own land, you actually have to go out, leave the safety of the tribe and go out and kill a lion and then bring it back. You're like handed a spear at like 12. Imagine that. But that is, that you are a man when you come back. You're a different kind of person. And that's what our job is as men. Another man I was talking to, he has 18 different things that he wants his son to do by the time he's 18. He's developed his own structure of what it means to be a man. And that's your job if you are a dad here. That's your job if you're a father. That's your job if you're a grandfather, to help guide these younger people into becoming a man, being a man. It's not something we can learn from the world of women. It's something that is our job and is exclusively our job. And we know that too, because you can see that 80% of the people who are in prison, hardcore prison, don't have a father. That's not surprising. The other 20% have also usually have a terrible father. It's right there in that. It's when masculinity is bestowed, it's strength that boy has to become a man. So each of my boys is on that journey. Here's a picture of Mount Moran in the Tetons. And my son, Sylvan, I had this idea, I'd like to add that into his plan. And so him and I climbed Mount Moran a couple summers ago. This is a picture of him at 6 years old. Whereas Sam's story was when he shared early on there of climbing Lost Arrow Spire. This is Sylvan's. This is not an easy journey. You have to canoe across 2 lakes just to get to the bottom of this mountain, and portage the canoe in between. Sylvan wasn't very helpful with that. But he summited this whole mountain. It's a massive thing. And forever, if you Google who's the youngest person to climb Mount Moran, boom, you'll see Sylvan Lightyear. If you say who's the youngest person to climb El Capitan on Google, boom, you'll see Sam Adventure and a whole bunch of other mountains for these boys. And so what we do is each year we set one colossal goal. Now, I'm not saying this is prescriptive. We're a very goal-centered family. It's basically the way I'm wired and the way I think. And so you get to build your own pathway to manhood. Ours is based on one colossal goal every year. And so if you're going to be in my family as a beloved son, basically you've got to have a goal, and there's 3 rules to that goal. 1, it's got to be so big and so hard that you've got to be training for it almost every day. If not every week, it's every day. You are constantly looking at that goal. That is impossible. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I got to prepare, and there's a whole bunch of disciplines that I need to be able to do that. Secondly, it's got to be it's got to be totally visual and remarkable. So if we're only going to pick one, let's pick one with a great photo op, something we can hang on the wall, and as you can see here. We also like to share it on Instagram. So it's something we could share out in the public, something we could share. And we try to pick mountains that haven't been ascended by young people, and so we can set a goal. So that's 2. Rule number 3 is simple. You can't die, okay? So rule number 3 is really important too. You got to be dialed. You got to have the right team. You got to have the right plan. And you got to be ready, and you have to be respectful of that mountain. And so basically those are the 3 rules in how we pick our goals. Sam, actually, has anyone here been to the Shawgunks of New York? I brought this one for you guys. So one of the years, Sam's goal was to climb a route called the Dangler. Okay, you'll see in this photo why it's called the Dangler. But we built this route on our back deck and put in the holds on our back deck to signature him climbing through this crack all the way out here to the edge and then going straight up. And he practiced it and practiced it and practiced it. And we went out to New York, and he aced the dangler, youngest person to ever climb it. And then he led the dangler, meaning that he actually climbed out without protection above him and had to place the protection into the wall as he was climbing, which is a pretty advanced thing for a kid. But he owned his goal that year, and now we have this epic photo in our kitchen to celebrate, Sam. And so it's that was one of his. Here's another one of my boys here. This is Sylvan. Remember Sylvan Lightyear. A light year is 6 trillion miles, and we think that Sylvan's life is going to be on a really big scale. So as I'm speaking into him and developing him, I said, this year, Sylvan, you're going to climb Leaning Tower. He has no idea what I'm talking about. But it's a big, huge wall. It's a 3-day rock climb where you've got to, just like El Capitan, you got to carry all your stuff up. But the difference about Leaning Tower is that the whole tower is actually leaning. It's like it's always overhanging. Everything you're doing is overhanging. And so we like to climb things in the easiest and safest way when we take a 7-year-old. And so we do it on Jumars. And so he's got a Jumar rope, which might sound easy, but it's really not. But when you Jumar a rope on a leaning tower, it means that you're Jumaring out in space like he is here, which means that each time you're connected to anchors when you're on the wall, but then the rope goes way up there and far out that way, and then you have to undock and swing out into space. And it feels like you are dropping into eternity. It feels like you're getting out of like a spacecraft. It feels like that, in space. And at 7 years old, you can imagine what that's like. There's a beautiful picture or little video I put up on Instagram of Sylvan launching out, and just me coaching him through that and the emotions of that. One of the most early things that we need to help our boys with is self-regulation. Once they get through that stage of self-regulation, that's like the foundation of building us. And it's once they get through self-regulation, now they can start building that self-confidence and that inner strength that we talk about. And it's our job as dads to actually create environments where you can do that. You can't just sit down with a book and read to your son about what courage is. It's something that they have to find. It's something that they have to earn. It's something that they have to do. And so us as fathers, it's our job to create that environment that grows that develops that calls to them in that. And just like Jesus said to Peter, hey, I want you to kind of come out of the boat. I want you to get out here on the water with me. I know you're already scared to death, but I want you to come over here on the water. It's that calling of the Father that calls us out onto the water. That's what builds us and makes us a man. And I begin to see that with Sylvan on this trip. Here's him on our little camp up there. We actually sleep on that little cot that's hanging there. And you wonder, how do you sleep? And so you can sleep because you're really tired. Because this is not easy. This is very hard. These are mountains that grown men get their butt kicked on and are rescued from sometimes. And we have to develop the boys with tremendous specificity to be able to get to a point where they're ready for this kind of adventure. And they have to know a whole series of disciplines. Here's us playing a little checkers up there and having fun. But then once we're done one of these adventures, it's really important, if they're successful, to celebrate it, right? Now, most grown men that I know who think that their birthday is a really big deal I'm not very impressed by it. I'm like, what are you talking about? Your birthday is a really big deal? You have throwing a big party for yourself? It's important that we celebrate our kids for just who they are. I admit that. So that's what your birthday's for. But if you really, really want to build into your boys, celebrate what they earn. Celebrate what they accomplish. And so we like to do that with a little bit of ice cream. And so we get these big, giant ice creams, something that's unforgettable after a good climb. That's if they're successful. Let's celebrate that. And we've created some other ways to celebrate it. We've made some little films, and once a year in Colorado Springs, we actually do a little film premiere where we bring 100 people together. We sell out a movie theater, and we share the stories of our last adventures. And I have my kids come up like Sam and give his speech and tell what he's accomplished, what we've done, and that's our way of celebrating our boys. But you've got to celebrate with a little ice cream. So last year, I had this vision of taking my son up the Matterhorn in Switzerland, okay? The Matterhorn is not a nice, gentle mountain. This is a very intense mountain. In fact, it's known as the most deadly mountain, believe it or not. It's a very wild place, and we're going to go right up this ridge right here on the mountain. I've never seen a mountain that was so captivating to me that I was like, wow, I want that summit so bad when we got to Zermatt and looked up at it. And Sam wanted it, so we prepared. We went up there, and here's a shot of him on the Matterhorn. And the Matterhorn is a very unique mountain. On any given day at, let's say, 9 in the morning, you can't even fly a kite at the summit of the Matterhorn. 10 o'clock in the morning, you can't fly a kite. But by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 100-mile-an-hour wind with total whiteout conditions you cannot see. And if you go off route on this mountain, you will die. And so there's cutoff times on the mountain. There's cutoff times. And so if you don't get to this part by this time, you're too late. Turn around. If you don't get to this part on the mountain by this time, it's too late. Turn around. And so we hit one of those cutoff times by 5 minutes after preparing for a mountain for a year. And we looked at the summit 1,200 feet away, and we turned around. And let me tell you, that was emotional. That was hard. I wanted that so bad for my son. I wanted that. But remember, there's always rule number 3. Rule number 3 is you can't die. So we turned around. We had an amazing trip together going down, totally safe. 2 weeks later, 3 climbers blew through the same cutoff time on the same route on the same mountain. All 3 of them perished on the mountain. And it doesn't matter how many people die on a mountain. What matters is, do we respect the mountain? Do we follow the rules? If you break through a cutoff time, your likelihood of dying on the mountain goes up 10 times. And we turned around. And it was an important lesson for me as a dad. And so we're going back this year. We got more training. We're more ready than ever. And we're going to try it again in August to climb this almost impossible mountain. And Sam will still be the youngest person in the entire world to climb this mountain. And the Matterhorn is the most famous mountain in the world. It's in every image of Disney. I don't know if you think of the Disney logo, it's there. And once you've seen the Matterhorn, you'll actually see it everywhere. It's in all sorts of marketing. One more story here. So this is another shot of my family. And after you've had 3 boys, all you want in the world is a girl. And we were blessed with a girl named Ember. We named her Ember Moonlight. And we quickly fell in love with her. And when you have all boy stuff, it's so fun to start being a visionary and imagine what it's going to be like to have a girl in your home. And then we go to a sonogram appointment, and the doctor says to us, "I'm really sorry, but your baby's going to develop normally in the womb, but soon after she's born, she's going to die." You can't imagine what that's like to hear. What do you even do with that? How do you bear that? It was a dark period. My wife moved in kind of to the bottom roof of our house at the time, and she got really depressed and started just kind of checking out. And with 3 boys in the house, our house was going to catch on fire if I don't quit what I'm doing and just father, just parent. And my clients were very gracious with me. And because of that, I said, Ann, my clients are being very gracious with me. They're not firing me. And so why don't we just take Ember to all of our favorite places before she's born? And so we basically went on tour and took our daughter to some really cool places. This is my wife while she's pregnant, climbing these spires up in South Dakota, which is a place she grew up. And here's a picture of her in Yosemite. and actually went swimming under Yosemite Falls with Ember. And this is us on top of a mountain called Fairview Dome, which we climbed in Yosemite with our daughter Ember. And we took this whole tour with our kids, praying for our daughter, talking about her every day. And we all fell in love with her. And then the boys realized that Ember wasn't going to make it to Christmas. We said Ember till November was kind of a line in our home. And so we decided that even before Halloween, we celebrated Christmas. We put up our Christmas tree and got the HOA mad because we put up all of our Christmas lights and before Halloween. To this day, we put up our Christmas tree in October because of our daughter Ember. And Ember came in, she lived for an hour and 6 minutes out of the womb and completely changed our lives. It was, I would say, it wasn't like God. It was like God was like with us. He was sad with us, and it was so life-changing for our family to experience God in this new way and to be loved by Him in this new way that we made the decision. At that point, I went with it by the name Joe Baker, Ann Baker, Sam Baker, Sylvan Baker, Joey Baker. We decided by the call of God to change our name. And so we went from the Bakers to the Evermores. And it was funny because when I was getting my rental car, and I'm still moving some things over, and so I handed the rental car guy a credit card that said Joe Baker. And he said, "Oh, is this your maiden name?" And I'm like, I've never heard that before, but it was pretty funny. And so I was like, well, it's not technically because I was already married when I changed my name. But it was pretty funny. But we became new people because of this, because of what God did, and we took some big risks. And to this day, all of my boys still talk about Ember and mention her almost every day. One of them will say something about that time or their sister and what she's doing. And Sylvan last year said, "I bet you the best place to be on Christmas is to be in heaven," which only a kid is going to figure out, you know. And so it was a life-changing experience. It was just kind of like a mountain for us all to climb as a family. And of course, God blesses us again and again. And here's our newest in our family. This is Blaze Wilder. And he's as cute as ever. Everybody's in love with Blaze. And he's our little baby in our home right now. And he will be on the same pathway to manhood. We wanted a girl really bad. But God just thinks we're like expert boy parents or something, and just keeps giving us these boys. But it's been an awesome adventure to kind of learn this ancient practice of how to raise boys and bring them into the circle of manhood. The last thing I want to share with you guys is we are creating a film about our boys, and this is not a little at-home film. This is a major film that I am raising money for. It's gonna be. We think it's gonna be on the Angel platform. Angel Studios has said that they are gonna put it up based on our torch, which we're gonna show them next week, which is like a kind of a fun set of clips about our family. But what we are looking for people who want to invest in this film. This is something that is going to be a part of the cultural shift that you see happening in America. You know, I mean, we have a world now where these young people don't even know what a woman is. Like, what are you talking about? You don't know what a woman is. They don't know what a man is. They have completely lost all definition of what it means to be a man, what it means to be a woman, what it means. You know, all of these basic things are lost in this generation. And I want to create a film that shows fathers how to bestow that manhood onto their son. And at the end of this film, any man who watches it's going to say, "We're going camping, family. We're getting out there. We're doing something. I need to get not just chauffeur everybody around, you know, and drive you to one sporting event after the other, but still actually creating a plan for you to develop into a man." That's my vision. And I'm looking for people who are of interest, who'd like to help us fund this real film. And it's actually not that expensive, and it's going to be a very profitable venture, I believe, in making this film. And so I'll end with that, and we're going to do some question and answer. Is that right?
Yeah.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. Joe, like, where did the vision for all this, like, what's the origin story of your vision for these rites of passage for your kids, and you know, like, kind of the extreme? I mean, there's kind of two sides to it, I guess. Like, this is, I'm curious about so much, but like the vision for this, the extreme adventure part of it, like, was that something? I mean, was that something that goes back to your dad? Was that something that was missing from your dad? Like, how's it connect to your story?
There's a couple questions in there. So how did it come together? I think it was, you know, a lot of men talk about, like, hey, when my kid's like 15, I do this thing with them, you know, and I would hear stories like that, and I just realized that, like, I don't think that's how it works. Like, I think it's a growing process to develop a man. It's not like when you're 16, now's the time to do this thing. It's like, I want there to be a full plan and journey. And when I had Sam, I just had a lot of vision, and I said, you know, what if there's a whole series of accomplishments that then I can hand you when you leave my home?
Was that like an epiphany in a vacuum? Was it like you just think God just downloaded that to you? Was it something you saw somewhere else and expanded on? Like, where'd it come from?
I think it's just the same journey that I'm on with like my father, my Heavenly Father. Like, it was just a realization that it wasn't a one-time thing. It was like I needed to actually create a series of trials for my son to be able to do, and I want these to be powerful men. Actually, one of the years we didn't do a climb for Sam. His was to speak in front of 100 people. That was the year after El Capitan. And let me tell you that, like I said, that was really, really hard. And for him to, at just 11, to come up here and give you guys a talk, that he made that look easy. But when you're a kid, that's not easy.
How about your relationship with your dad? What was that like?
Yeah, I got an awesome dad. What he did for me is he would always show me the West. Like, every year we would take a trip out to Yellowstone and Glacier and, you know, and Banff and the Canadian Rockies, but he was never into mountain climbing. So it was like, while I was on these trips, I would always be looking at these mountains, be like, how do we get up there? How do we get on that? And so it kind of began to build that into me. But as far as this masculine journey, I don't think he had a clue what I'm talking about, what I'm thinking or what I'm trying to teach now. He just didn't understand that. And, you know, and there's definitely been some like misses and some wounding that I took from my dad, and I really found healing from that, from God, you know, and from the company of other men. I found strength, and it's out of that I begin to, you know, create this journey for my son.
That's great. That's great. I'm going to just do one more question, and Woody will turn it open to you guys. Sam, how much do you like sitting in this chair right now? No, that's not the question. What does your mom say to you before you go on one of these trips with your dad?
She tells me to stay safe and eat lots of snacks.
Is she worried, do you think?
Yes.
She is? Okay, so she's a normal mom. So that's good. That's good. I mean, because that's what all of us were wondering, Joe. Like, we're wondering, like, how does your wife let you do this stuff with your boys, right? Like, that's the real question.
That is a really good question, actually. Yeah.
Do you have an answer?
Well, you have to marry a great woman that understands this journey. You know, there are tremendous risks in what we're doing. We believe the risks are small compared to the reward. We think the reward is great and the risk is small. And it's because of that and her belief in that and her trust in that and in me and her faith in God that she is a mother that lets our boys go, which is part of the masculine journey. There has to be that moment where the little boy who's like, you know, has these little cute names from mom, leaves mom and then receives a new name from Dad, receives that strength and embodiment of the masculine story from Dad. There's that movement, and we start that at 5. And you saw in that one shot of Joey on top of Pingora, Mom was there for that. She was there. She summited it with us, which is beautiful, and that. But she won't be on the rest of them with Joey. Like, it's now. He's going to leave Mom and join the world of men, and that's how it's supposed to be. It's hard for her. It breaks her heart every time. Yeah.
What do your friends think of your climbing, your buddies?
They think it's cool.
Do they ask you lots of questions? Or are they in shock?
They ask a lot of questions.
We think it's cool too, Sam. Very cool. All right, guys, let's have some questions. What we got?
I'm sure there's a lot of questions, but what's the training like before I get it around to go, in your backyard in Colorado to go to El Capitan? How do you do the training?
Oh, there's a lot of different parts of training. So the one thing we were doing this year is that for Sam to have 30 minutes on his Switch, he had to do 90 pull-ups a day. And so he was really kicking butt on the pull-ups. But like we go to we have passes actually at 3 rock gyms in our town. I know that's insane. But we basically, when you have boys, like, there's rock gyms provide different things, and so it keeps them motivated and interested going to multiple rock gyms. And so we're always just climbing and hiking. And right now we're to prepare for the Matterhorn, we're stomping up like giant sheets of ice in Colorado, big ice ridges, which we just did a ridge a couple weekends ago that was super intense. I mean, Sam had snot coming out of his nose, and he was crying, "I don't think I can go any farther, Dad. I can't do it." And I said, "Let's just go a little farther and see what happens." And we went just a little farther, and he got the second wind, and I couldn't even catch the guy. And we summited that mountain. It was so fun to not hike out defeated like we did the 2 other times when we tried this mountain. And we got it. And, it's all wearing crampons and not stabbing yourself is quite a discipline to learn.
Good morning. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Sam. We live in an up and to the right culture. You're in a room full of up and to the right men. How do we make sure, if we undertake an adventurous route, that the peaks, that the challenges, that the adventures don't become idols?
That is a good one too. Well, one of the things that happens when you develop a boy early in this kind of strength is that they find their strength, and then they become you begin to see that narcissist come out. You begin to see that like pride come out. That's very normal, and one of there's going to be another journey here soon that Sam doesn't fully know about yet, but where we're really going to begin to serve. And like, I want to take Sam on some missions trips, and each of my boys on some missions trips where they see real poverty, where they see, because Sam's had it really good. The world, everyone nowadays wants to talk about privilege. Sam's got a lot of privilege. The main privilege is having a dad that is intentional with him. That's your greatest privilege in life, which privilege is a good thing, I think, but he needs to see what the world's really like, what most people live like. And I think that's another journey that the father draws a man into, so that you don't just raise little a-hole that thinks he could do anything. We also want self-service, self-sacrifice, humility, and honestly, Sam doesn't have any of those yet. And so do you, Sam? So we're working on that.
You taking that, Sam?
Yeah. But you don't get it all in one hit. So it's like, there's a point where a boy begins to see those other things. He doesn't, empathy isn't something you get at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's something that comes in the later years, but it has to be developed, just like inner strength and self-mastery.
So some of us would probably say, these examples are crazy, but it seems like you guys live in Colorado. You guys are doing the behind-the-scenes training that most of us don't see. So in that regard, it's not that crazy. But is there an example that you've, in doing your own research of other people that have maybe taken a great idea, but they've executed it in a bad way? And for saying, hey, there's something that men should be doing with their sons, but, and make sure that they're doing it in a thoughtful way. And is there an instance where, again, a father has, with a great idea, but bad execution, and there's been like, hey, maybe you need to rethink this a little bit?
I've had bad execution in the past, but rather than thinking deeply, and like I can't think of a bunch of examples of people doing it poorly, because most people don't do this or anything like it. But there's a fellow I was talking to that he had daughters, and he was telling his story that every year he would do a daddy-daughter road trip, and man, it brings me to tears to think about it. When these daughters graduated, he presented to them this beautiful framed picture of all of these pictures of all of their daddy-daughter road trips that they did every year. And that's another, by the way, masculinity also bestows femininity. It's so important you know that too. It's not given by mom, it's given by dad. It's the blessing of the father that says to the daughter, you are beautiful, you are lovely, you are worth fighting for. Those are words that could only come from dad. And he did that on these daddy-daughter road trips. And so, like, they're not goal-oriented. There was no, like, massive peak that they were training for or anything. But it was so right what he talked about with me with that. And so we're kind of a goal-oriented thing. We're kind of a nar oriented thing. That's not for every boy. That's not for every man. Like, that's what we do in our family. And that's not prescriptive. What is prescriptive is we need a pathway that's architected by dad to become a man. And in your own creativity and vision, it's for you to kind of figure out. Yeah.
Thank you both for speaking to us. It's an important subject. I grew up in the post-World War II era, and there was a phrase that really struck me even as a child, and that was, he may be brave on the battlefield, but can he say no to his wife? In other words, has he accepted his masculine authority? And my experience is that there's not a deficit of physical courage. There's really a deficit we can see in Washington, D.C., of a deficit of moral courage over the last 4 years especially. People who would not blow the whistle, people who would not resign. So how does your work relate to moral courage? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I mean, courage is like it's like the foundation of all of our character. Like, if we don't have courage, we don't have character. It is like the basis of it. And so, like, it's off of this that you then build integrity in all these different layers. And so moral courage is courage. It's hard to say things to people that they don't want to hear. That's really hard to do. It's hard to be honest with people and just to say what the truth is, which is something we've got to teach our young people. No, don't tell me just what I want to hear. Don't change the story. Just tell me the real story. Just tell me exactly what happened. And trying to train that into boys alongside like physical courage, I think helps bring that in alignment. But I think integrity is all part of this. It's like you don't have integrity without going through trials, without finding that inner strength, that weight in your chest to say, no, I'm just going to do the right thing now. And, that comes because you have that strength. I don't know if I answer your question though. Okay, we should talk more about it. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I am Bernard. My question is, how do you cope with the fear of failure when the dangerous risk is before your very eyes?
Well, the fear of failure, like losing a son or something like that, or
Whatever, especially when your kids face the same fears.
Yeah. So on these adventures, there's only been one time where we faced like something that could be called like mortal danger. Like my kids are, we bring pros with us. We have these kids are basically like bolted to the wall. I mean, they're on ropes that hold thousands of pounds, on anchors that hold tens of thousands of pounds, and so I believe for the most part what we're doing is fairly safe. The biggest risks is that someone above us could drop a rock that could kill us, like that, or that the mountain just lets go like that. Those are some of the biggest risks on the wall. And so, yeah, it's not like if we don't make it, we die. Like we don't. That's never actually been a thing, And we respect the rules. We're not like we did on the Matterhorn. We're like, this is a hard decision. After planning a mountain for a year, and then, okay, so we turned around. If we didn't make it, we didn't make it. So we turned around, and that was hard. But yeah, so I mean, another man's pathway to manhood might be farther than mine. And I accept that. I mean, just think about the people who send out their boy in the tribe. We ain't doing that. Yeah, that's it.
Great. Guys, we're going to have to leave it there. I'm sure you'll have some more questions, and you can come up and visit with Joe and Sam when we're done. Before you leave, I was thinking, like, some other things to think about back to that. I mean, if you didn't have this, if your father didn't intentionally shape you, which most of our fathers probably didn't, just like you said, like, how can you still push yourself to grow as a man? How can you push yourself to take steps of courage, to put yourself in positions where it truly is an adventure the way Sam defined it, which is basically you're not in control of the outcome, or you don't know how it's going to turn out. I think as the older we get, the more allergic to that kind of risk we get, and so that's one question. Another question is, some of you have kids, some of you have adult kids, and you're thinking, I missed the train. I didn't make them climb a mountain when they were 4. Man, I'm way behind. But how can you still take some of these ideas and still inject them into your relationships with your older kids? That's what I'm thinking about.
I feel like I have to answer those.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I answer those 2 questions?
Please. Yeah.
Okay. So question 1 is, how do you get it?
Yeah, how do you get it?
How do you get it?
If you missed it.
Well, that is what's so rad about the Bible, is that we have an intentional Father that wants to say, Peter, come out here on the water, that wants to draw us out of safety into the unknown, into fear, change your name, leave your home, do something bold. Like, that's the calling of God. It's like, let God father you, and then bring in a company of men that will be a part of that process. That is the call of God. Like, Jesus was on tour with a group of, they were basically on a backpack trip, speaking into these men. I mean, that's what God's going to call us into. So it's from the living God that you find inner strength and these very things that you might have missed. Second question, your boys who are grown up, they will always want to hear these things from their father. There's so many things I would love to hear from my dad. I remember I was asking there was an opportunity for my dad to go on this road trip with me, and he didn't end up coming, but I remember this yearning in my heart for just, hey, can we just do this together? And I wanted still I was like 25 years old, I still wanted to do something with my dad that felt risky, that felt wild or dangerous. And to this day, I feel that. And I think all of us, if you think of your father, you long for it too. And so you still have a path ahead of you. There's still time. So be that man. Create an environment where you can speak that into your boy. Like, that's your job as a father, no matter how old your kids are. Third thing I want to say, close out, is Sam brought some posters, and he would love to sign a poster, but he takes donation only. So any amount you want to donate him, he's got a sticker and a poster for you. And then if
I
anybody's
took one. I didn't get it signed though. I already took a poster.
$50.
All right.
I'm just kidding. It's a donation.
I only
any
have a
amount-
couple
any amount.
hundred,
Just
so
kidding.
I'll-
Just kidding. And anybody that wants to see our deck and hear our pitch more about our movie, just give me something with your phone number on it, with your cell phone number on it, and I'll text you and we'll set a time and we'll tell you more about the movie.
Great. All right, guys, we're going to leave it at that. Woody, close us in prayer, brother.
Lord, thanks for today. Thank you for Joe and Sam traveling all the way from Colorado here to the canyons of New York City to talk to us about manhood. I pray that we would be the men, the husbands, the fathers, the friends in this city that you've called us to be. Thank you for this morning in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right.
Amen.
Guys, keep coming back. It
Works if you work it.